Hi, my name is Lowe. I am the student and designer with the Permaculture Women's Guild. My mentor is Kelda Lorax. I'm located in Amelia Island, Florida, and my project name is Butterfly Medicine. My name is Lowe, and I've cared a lot about sustainability for a while, but it felt like I was really only doing the bare minimum, eating organic, shopping local, bringing my tote bags to the stores. But I knew I needed to do more and didn't know how to embody that sustainable lifestyle and really get off the conventional hamster wheel. Um, I found an ad on YouTube for permaculture and it grabbed me by my soul. And I knew, realizing that this is a course that teaches you tangible life skills for how to live sustainably, was everything that I was looking for. So I really jumped into this wholeheartedly, and I've been studying for 14 months now, and am very happy to present to you my design project. So my mission at the Butterfly Medicine Project is to transform my current conventional suburban lifestyle into a sustainable one that is supportive of Earth. My vision for this is to produce most of our own food, as well as providing sacred place for play, relaxation, and connection. So some of my goals, regenerating the soil is always top priority, growing most of my food, successfully growing in our full deep shade areas, encouraging wildlife, closing our resource loop, creating that sacred space, decluttering and organizing the home, annual audits of our energy, deepening connections with the community, and to combat our pesticide drift issues. So let's look at our maps. This is my base map located in Amelia Island, Florida. The site is 1/4 acres and we're 0.8 miles from the beach. Our island is approximately 12 by 2 miles large with a population of just over 36,000. So we're pretty small. It's a pretty small beach town. These are my zones currently, as is zone 1 in purple, that's visited daily, living space. Zone 2 is visited on a few times a week. For me, this is places where we, water, prune plants, access our tool shed. Then zone 3 is weekly or less. This is pretty much just pruning bushes out front. Zone 4 is not even on this map. This is visited more like monthly or less. And then zone 5 is just the wilderness. This is my sectors overview. These are the elements that affect the site that you have no control over. So the sun, wind, rain, your neighbors. So you can see here, we're fairly flat in Florida. I do have a 2-foot from my highest point in the backyard at 14 feet. It goes down to 12 towards the front road. So, and that is a visible slope you can see from the backyard. So I'm going to utilize that for carrying water. You can see about half of the site is pretty deep shade here, shady areas in this dark green, and then the light green is full sun. So have a good combination of both. The neighborhood is mostly retirees, so it's a pretty quiet neighborhood. And then we do have a lot of pesticide drift. Our neighbors all spray their lawns, and I see a lot of the trucks and the signs throughout the neighborhood and throughout the town, really. So we know pesticide drift is a concern. Our microclimates, we have lots of shady climates in the back here. We have full sun on the side with a few little shady areas, full sun in the front, no fence there, so no wind protection in the front like we have in the back. Some partly sunny, dampened light here coming from neighbor's tree, and then some more full sun. So my analysis of our base maps plus my observations we have here. So this is just for the area itself. Given that we're a small beach town in Florida, the sandy soil is just always something we're fighting. So given that the goal is to produce food, then our number one priority is always going to be regenerating soil. We have a lot of sunny areas as well as some full shade areas. We get quite a bit of water. We're a subtropical climate in growing zone 9A. We get about almost 49 inches of rain a year. And then the wind, I'm not too concerned about, given that we're pretty tightly developed in this area in the suburbs. So between that and the backyard being completely fenced, we do have a lot of blockage from the wind. However, we're in Florida, so we do always have those hurricane winds to consider. The neighbors are relatively quiet, don't have a lot of kids here. I do have two kids, two little boys, 9 and 5. One of their biggest toys they like to play with is our above ground pool, which is currently a natural swimming pool. We only use 35% hydrogen peroxide to clean it, so that the splashing doesn't hurt the plants at all. Then we have 3 cats. They're indoor, outdoor cats. And then toxins, like I said, a lot of our neighbors are spraying, so we're always combating that pesticide drift. So all of that was as is, what's there now. Now we get to get into the design components. So there's a lot of components here. It's a small space, or it's a quarter of an acre is the site size. So really wanted to utilize and be creative with every last bit of space we could to use as many components as we can. All of these components are geared towards growing our own food or connecting with others. So we've got vermiculture for creating compost tea and composting, a cistern for collecting rainwater. We have rain barrels at every downspout to collect rainwater, incorporating compost bins, hugelkultur beds to create and regenerate the soil, utilizing our fences and creating some trellises so we can have vertical growing, as well as a garden tower. Back here in the west fence line is where we have this very deep shaded area. So to try to combat that, I'm going to create a 3-tier planter. So you can see this little side view here. It's kind of like 3 steps up. My goal with that is to bring the plants like up and out. So getting them out of that really deep shaded fence line, and just trying to get them out and over to the sunlight as much as possible, as well as just really working with very shade loving plants there. In this area, we have a fire pit. This is off of the bedroom. So this is kind of our a sacred space here for like meditation and reflection. There's a fire pit and a solar panel fountain. As well as you come down the pavers here, we'll have a sauna, an outdoor shower. Over here on this corner, we have a compost toilet, again, for regenerating the soil, material storage for that. This is just going to be a funereal garden over on this side. And then on this side will actually be a full-on food forest. So we'll actually implement each of the 7 layers there. There will be a pond in the forest. This is to help attract our really good little amphibians. We want lots of frogs, snakes and lizards, and we have a big problem with snails here. So really try to encourage those toads to come to our yard. This is currently regular, just decorative hedges here, but we're going to replace those with berry hedges. Very excited about this as our spiral garden, and the front yard garden is going to be for the neighborhood. So I'm going to encourage our neighbors to use it and, to relax and play and pick their own food. And it will have educational signs, predominantly on the use of pesticides, because that's something we're trying to combat, as well as just acknowledging our indigenous land. We'll have lots of wildflowers here on the side and up here by the door, try to encourage the pollinators coming. And so like I said, all of these components are either to regenerate the soil, capturing water to grow our food, or to connect. So now we have our zones designed, and that has changed them drastically. As you can see, zone 1 is now most of the site. So this is all visited daily. We'll be growing our food, playing, all of that good stuff. Then down or on the side here, we have zone 2, which will be our food forest. So I won't have to visit this as often. This is just going to be more for harvesting and pruning, but I won't have to be out there every single day checking on it. Then now zone 3 is no longer on the map. That's just our neighborhood. Zone 4 will be the local community, and zone 5, the online community. Our paths and flows, they're in orange, are human paths. So you can see we have paths all over the gardens, getting us to the road, accessing the shed, into play areas. The cats, they roam the entire site, so I don't really have a color for them because they, you know, predominantly in the backyard, but they roam all over. And then in pink, you can see are the wildlife activity. We're trying to encourage a bat house, bee house, toad houses, as well as I'm going to strategically place little shallow plates for water to help the cats as well as wildlife to replenish themselves. Our gardens here, you can stop and read each one. I won't go into, it's mainly telling you the different plants that I'm going to use, which I just consider this a base map. I'm new to gardening, so I know I'm going to be a lot of experimenting. Obviously, always thinking about companion planting and what each plant needs and what they can be best paired with. But I know a lot of these actual plants will change just with experiment and trading and whatnot. So then on to social and invisible structures. On the site, we don't have an HOA, and it's also legal to collect rainwater here, so I don't foresee any legal issues. Then we move on to the neighborhood, which I'm going to encourage our neighbors to come and use the front yard garden, as well as once everything is established, I will host workshops there and teach our neighbors about permaculture practices and principles, as well as doing seed and plant swaps and having meals together. Within my local community, I want to participate in several groups. The closest permaculture guild was an hour away, so obviously I want to create a permaculture guild here on the island, and I will elaborate on that on the next slide. I also want to become to start a local American Promise chapter, which aims to get money out of politics through campaign finance reform. And then as well as just joining our Amelia Tree Conservancy, which is a group dedicated to educating the public on our local maritime forest. And they are striving for a zero canopy loss during this rapid time of development in our town. And then within my online community, next year, my littlest starts kindergarten. So that will give me a lot more opportunity and for time to start my own blog site where I can interweave sustainability, spirituality, and politics and how those are all connected and influencing us, as well as just dedicating time to participate in other groups and communities involving permaculture, spirituality, and politics. So creating my local guild, I consider myself just a co-creator. This is obviously going to be a group. And so my role within that is just as the group facilitator. I know the actual physical manifestations of what kind of projects we'll take on and what kind of topics we'll dive into, that will all change based on the hearts and hands of the collective group. But the group name will be the Wild Wellness and Healing Guild. And I titled it that because our mission is to explore wellness and healing from a natural indigenous perspective. So that will include sustainable living, spiritual healing, as well as social justice community projects. And my vision for this group is to initially just start as a group meeting in public spaces, but hoping to build enough interest and membership that eventually we could maybe morph into more of a nonprofit healing center where our members can actually come and have a place to meet where we can provide services and products. This meeting will be an hour and a half long, monthly or possibly bi-weekly if the demand exists. It will include a potluck meal, 30 or 40 minutes to introduce a new topic, which will be led by a member, and then 30 to 45 minutes of group discussion, as well as just a 15-minute wrap up to collectively go over insights, results, feedback, and determine next month's agenda. Like I said, my role will just be as a group facilitator. To me, that means I'm there to make sure everyone feels a sense of belonging and participates, to mediate any issues, as well as just keeping the meetings on topic. And you can see here, we've got a long list of topics in the permaculture world that goes on and on, right? So we could have lots of fun things to get into as a group. For my technology transportation and energy, you can read through these lists, but from the energy aspect, I'm most excited to start incorporating cooking over an open fire. I love stir fry veggies. So I really want to learn how to start cooking those on our fire pit. So we can just use less electricity, and I think it'd be really fun. Transportation wise, I live on a small island. So while it is hard a lot of times to ride a bike because I'm like picking up children and lots of stuff and rainy days and whatnot, that can get hard. But I want to really, really make a strive towards riding my bike more, because we can ride to the beach, to the grocery store, thrift stores, restaurants. There's a lot of possibilities there. So I'm going to incorporate that much more. And as far as my favorite appropriate technology, I'm very, very excited to use or to build and create and use the compost toilet. I think that's just a huge 2-for-1. You get to like clean up your water supply and system and regenerate the soil, which is #1 priority. So implementation phase 1 will begin this winter, and you can read my priorities here, but this is essentially just really the building phase. So I'm going to specifically in the food forest area. I don't want to start planting right away. I really want to give it at least a year to regenerate the soil first and build up that soil life. So I'm going to start with sheet mulching and cover cropping this area, as well as the perennial garden. I'm going to go ahead and build our hugelkultur beds and hang up some of our fence vines, as well as creating the compost toilet and the vermicomposting system, because again, those are regenerating the soil. So I want to get those implemented as quickly as possible. Phase 2 will begin in the spring. So as you can guess, that is going to include a lot of planting. Going to start with the irrigation drip system and getting that hooked up and figured out. Be a lot of tinkering to get that going, but that will, water our gardens, and then just rotating these crops, rotating them in the annual beds, adding the garden tower, adding more of the fence vines, adding the planter here. So it's just really all about planting, planting, planting. Phase 3, I'm considering this to be longer phase. This is going to be more of a year, because there's several things here that we're going to remodel our house next summer. And so some of that won't happen until then. So, priorities here are going to be adding some of the components like the pond, as well as the outdoor shower and sauna. Obviously, rotating our annuals as the seasons go. Starting to, in the springtime, I'm going to start incorporating our layers into the food forest, because it'll be at that point, it'll have a year of growing in it. So hopefully that soil life will be a little healthier, and it can start to incorporate those layers, as well as at that point, we'll incorporate the garden spiral we're very excited about. And then it won't be until next summer when we can plumb in the cistern to the house whenever we remodel. Okay, so notes and diagrams. So this is our home, our nutrient cycle. This is not exhaustive at all, but a great start. Some of the things our home produces: kitchen scraps, cardboard, paper, yard debris, human waste, cat waste, trash, plastic. Most of this regenerates and comes back to the home in form of regenerating the soil. Obviously, we want to use as least amount of trash and plastics as possible, because that's going ultimately into the landfill. Yeah, so then we have my resource chart here, which I won't go into. You can obviously pause and read it, but it was incredibly helpful to create this. And all I did was do, on the left side are all the components. It's several pages long. So it's every single component that I have in my site, as well as a list of what I already have, like the supplies that I'll need that I have, and then the ones that I will need and what phase I will need them. So I know if I need it right away in phase 1 or not till later in phase 3. So this was really helpful to like visualize the things I will need to source. Whoop, all over the place here. There we go, species list. So this are the species that I'm really excited about. This list will be forever changing. Like I said, I'm new to gardening. So for me, just experimenting will, I'm sure, change change a lot of these lists up, as well as, seed swapping and plant swapping and stuff like that. But these are the ones I'm excited. This is kind of my base map for my species and what I'm most excited about. Stakeholders, it's me and my family, my husband and my 2 little boys on our site. So my husband has a small business and is very, very busy. So it'll predominantly be me and my energy and time that actually able to put this together. So I don't know, of course, I'll have a little bit of help from my little hands. And some of our top priorities, again, regenerating the soil to grow our own food and enjoy our sacred space. The assessment here, I recommend you read, but I'm not going to go into each one. The biggest thing that I learned from this is just that it's really important for me to put my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being before anything else, because I have a tendency to give to others, before I take care of myself. And I always had the vision of like putting your oxygen mask on before you can put someone else's on. That's something I'm really working with. So this was nice to really like put it on paper and make it a tangible thing to see that it's a responsibility that I must fulfill. Okay, then we have our implementation timeline and task. Another really, really helpful chart I have on the left here, all of my zones. Then in each one of those zones, I have lists out all the tasks that need to be completed. And then the different phases 1 through 3 of, what I will do in those phases. So this, again, I won't go over, it's very detailed, but it was incredibly helpful and really helps me to just visually see how much work I have to do and where I need to do it. So that's it. That is my project. I want to give a ginormous thanks to all the women involved in the Permaculture Women's Guild. I think you are all just incredibly genius. I think coming up with this plan, the traditional course is like you go to a location for 2 weeks, and as a mom that was just not doable for me, as well as being just completely new to permaculture. I don't think I would have gotten as much out of it in a 2-week span. There's just so much to learn. I don't know how much I could have possibly retained. Like I said, I've studied this for 14 months and I'm really, really grateful that I did. I went down a lot of different rabbit holes and I felt like each component was like getting to know a person. And so it takes time. It takes time to get to know that person. But now that I've completed the course and I've taken my time and I've really gone deep, I am nothing but excited to start the implementation process. I feel confident. And I also just feel forever changed. I feel like permaculture has gifted me with these tangible skills that are great for creating, and changing your lifestyle, but also just for seeing your place in the world differently. And so for me, I actually feel like life is much easier now. So I'm just forever changed by permaculture and eternally grateful for it. So thank you to Kelda Lorax for being my mentor and to all the women involved in this guild. You are wonderful.